We can get started. Oh, just one second. Okay, let me just make sure Doug is here. He is here. Great. Okay, we are good to go. Doug's online. Mhm. Yes. Joe Barker is not here. Sends his regrets.
Okay, can we go on the record? All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rebecca Tepper, and I'm the Secretary of the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs and the Chair of the Energy Facility Siting Board. Before we get started, I will ask the interpreters to provide instructions on providing the interpretation services being provided today.
Thank you. Good morning. The language announcement will now begin. We are providing interpretation services for this meeting in Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, Vietnamese, and Haitian Creole, as well as American Sign Language. Whether you are here or on Zoom, you will have access to interpretation services provided today. If you are here in the room, you can access interpretation using a receiver and headphone set. They are available at the table at the side of the room. For those on Zoom, in just a moment, we will activate interpretation. You will see a globe icon button that says Interpretation. Click the globe and make a selection for your preferred language, including English. And for Spanish, please.
Estamos proporcionando servicios de interpretación para esta reunión en español, portugués, chino, vietnamita, criollo, haitiano, así como en lengua de señas estadounidenses. Ya sea que esté aquí de manera presencial o conectado por Zoom, tendrá acceso a los servicios de interpretación disponibles hoy. Si se encuentra en la sala, puede acceder a la interpretación utilizando un receptor y un juego de audífonos. Están disponibles en la mesa ubicado al lado del salón. Para quienes están en Zoom, en un momento activaremos la interpretación. Verán un botón con el icono del globo que dice Interpretation. Hagan clic en el globo, seleccionen el idioma de su preferencia, incluido inglés. Spanish is complete.
For Portuguese, please.
Estamos oferecendo serviços de interpretação para esta reunião em espanhol, português, chinês, vietnamita e crioulo haitiano, bem como em língua de sinais americana. Esteja você presente fisicamente ou participando pelo Zoom, terá acesso aos serviços de interpretação oferecidos hoje. Se estiver presente na sala, você poderá acessar os serviços de interpretação oferecidos hoje. Você poderá acessar a interpretação usando um receptor e fones de ouvido. Eles estão disponíveis na mesa ao lado da sala. Para quem estiver participando pelo Zoom, em instantes ativaremos a interpretação. Você verá um botão com um ícone de globo terrestre escrito Interpretação. Clique no globo e selecione o idioma de sua preferência, incluindo o inglês.
For Mandarin Chinese, please.
我们今天为本次会议提供西班牙语、葡萄牙语、中文、越南语、海地克里奥尔语以及美国手语 ASL 的口译服务。无论您是在现场还是通过 Zoom 参加，都可以使用这些语言服务。若您在现场，可使用接收器和耳机收听口译，设备放置在会议室侧边的桌子上。若您在 Zoom 上，稍后我们将开启口译功能，您将看到一个带地球仪图标的按钮，标注为 Interpretation。点击后，请选择您希望收听的语言，包括英语。Thank you.
For Vietnamese, please.
Chúng tôi cung cấp dịch khẩu ngữ cho cuộc gọi ngày hôm nay bằng các ngôn ngữ tiếng Tây Ban Nha, tiếng Bồ Đào Nha, tiếng Trung Quốc, tiếng Việt và tiếng Creole Haiti cùng với ngôn ngữ ký hiệu Mỹ ASL. Dù quý vị đang có mặt tại phòng họp hay là tham gia qua Zoom, quý vị đều có thể sử dụng dịch vụ phiên dịch. Nếu quý vị đang có mặt tại phòng, quý vị có thể nhận thiết bị thu sóng và tai nghe tại bàn bên cạnh phía bên hông phòng. Nếu quý vị tham gia qua Zoom, trong giây lát nữa chúng tôi sẽ kích hoạt tính năng phiên dịch. Quý vị sẽ thấy biểu tượng quả địa cầu cùng với dòng chữ Interpretation. Hãy nhấn vào biểu tượng đó, chọn ngôn ngữ mong muốn, bao gồm cả tiếng Anh. Xin cảm ơn.
And for Haitian Creole, please.
Bonjour tout le monde, et nous gagnons service interprétation disponible dans la réunion ça, dans la langue ça yo, qui c'est espagnol, portugais, chinois, vietnamien, créole haïtien, ensemble avec langue en signe américain. Si oui, c'est là dans la salle là, ou sinon si vous sous Zoom, on peut toujours jouer accès à service interprétation nous offre aujourd'hui. Et si que oui, c'est là dans la salle là, on peut un service accès à interprétation, là, utiliser récepteur ensemble avec casse écouteur. Appareil ça yo, yo disponible sur table l'autre bord. Et tant pis, pour moun qui sous Zoom yo, dans un petit moment, nous allons activer service interprétation pour. Vous remarquez un bouton icône globe qui dit interprétation. Cliquez sur le globe là et puis sélectionnez la langue préférée là qui c'est créole haïtien ou bien si vous voulez entendre anglais, choisissez anglais. Merci à pile.
Language announcement completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And just to complete the interpretation instructions, we are also providing American Sign Language interpretation using Zoom. The ASL interpreter will be visible on the screen, both here in the hearing room as well as on Zoom, and can also be selected as a interpretation channel. I will now turn interpretation on, so please make your language selection. And to complete the interpretation instructions, I'd also like to note that Zoom provides translated closed captions. So press the Show Captions button at the bottom of your Zoom screen and select your caption language, and that language will be used for your closed captions. That completes our instructions. Back to you, Secretary Tepper.
Great. Again, welcome everyone. This is a hybrid meeting of the Energy Facilities Siting Board taking place at the offices of the Department of Public Utilities, 1 South Station, Boston, and on Zoom. This hybrid meeting format is intended to allow everyone to see and hear all speakers, whether here or on Zoom. This meeting is being recorded and will be available on the Siting Board's YouTube channel. For our remote attendees, if you are having any difficulties with Zoom, please call 857-200-0065 for assistance at any time. With me here today are other members of the Siting Board: Jeremy McDermott, Chair of the Department of Public Utilities; Stacy Rubin, Commissioner of the Department of Public Utilities; Elizabeth Mahaney, Commissioner of the Department of Energy Resources; Bonnie Heipel, Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection; and Doug Goutreau is online, and he is the Director of the Permitting Regulatory Office at the Executive Office of Economic Development. In addition, we have Andy Green, the Director of the Siting Board, who is here with the board and will be serving as the Zoom meeting host. The meeting today concerns the Siting Board's role in implementing the 2024 Climate Act, signed into law by Governor Healy in November 2024. The 2024 Climate Act makes many changes in the way that clean energy facilities will be sited and permitted in Massachusetts. The Siting Board is required to promulgate regulations and guidelines to implement these reforms that will apply to projects filed with the Siting Board starting on July 1, 2026. The purpose of today's meeting is for the Siting Board to deliberate and vote on a tentative decision that would adopt a major portion of the final regulations implementing the siting and permitting reforms from the 2024 Climate Act. These final regulations include 980 CMR 1, 2, 13, 14, 16, and proposed repeals of 980 CMR 4, 5, 7, 8, and 11. Two regulations are not included in today's agenda. 980 CMR 15, which is the cumulative impact analysis and site suitability report criteria, and 980 CMR 17, constructive approval. These regulations are still being reviewed and will be revised based on comments received. We expect to have a board meeting on the cumulative impact and site suitability regulation later this month, and we'll also provide an update on the constructive approval at that time. Today's meeting follows earlier action by the board that opened a rulemaking in EFSB 25-10 for regulations required of the Siting Board in the 2024 Climate Act. We have held a series of formal public comment hearings on the earlier set of proposed regulations and received many written comments over the course of this rulemaking. Written comments to date have been posted on the EFSB DPU file room and on the EFSB 2024 Climate Act rulemaking website. As a result of comments from state and local agencies, industry, and nonprofit stakeholders, the general public, and siting board members, staff have been working to refine the final regulations which we are considering today. For today's meeting, staff will present the proposed final regulations and update the board on the additional written comments made since the January 7 board meeting and changes in response to those comments. The tentative decision provides additional understanding of the proposed final regulations before us, and the staff will cover that as well. We will also have time today to listen to public comment and questions regarding the proposed final regulations. As a reminder, we are on a tight schedule to develop these regulations in time to meet our statutory deadline. So I note that all materials presented by staff today will be posted online. The board will vote to promulgate the final regulations and issue a final decision. The regulations will then be submitted to the Secretary of State and published in the Massachusetts Register in time to meet the March 1, 2026 statutory deadline. The siting board provide notice of today's meeting to the Commission on the Energy Infrastructure Siting and Permitting, a broad group of stakeholders and member organizations, the Siting Practitioners Advisory Group, and an interagency task force for siting and permitting. The notice was also posted on the siting board's website and provided under the Massachusetts open meeting law requirements. Before we begin the substance of the meeting, let me provide an overview of the agenda. First, we will hear a presentation of proposed final regulations by Siting Board General Counsel Joan Foster Evans and the presiding officers who have been working on these regulations. The board will ask questions of the staff or others. Public comments, we will take comments in the following order. Public officials, members of the Commission on Energy Infrastructure Siting and Permitting, the Siting Practitioners Advisory Group, Interagency Task Force, and the public. The board will ask questions, discuss, and deliberate following the public comments. A stenographer is present today to transcribe everything said to make an official record of the meeting. I encourage everyone to speak slowly and clearly and allow the prior speaker to finish before you begin speaking. This will help ensure an accurate transcript. So I will just take the benefit of being the chair and make a few comments before we start, which is primarily to say that this has been a very difficult endeavor, and it was done on a very quick time frame pursuant to the statute. So the work that has gone into this in a very short period of time is just, I've never seen it happen in my career, to have all these regulations done in such a well thought out manner, including the public, including comments, including many people in the process, resulting in an excellent set of regulations that I think we can all be really proud of. So I just wanted to start by saying we know that everybody has been working really hard, and just want to thank you for that. And we look forward to, and when I say everybody, I mean everybody. Like, everybody has had to deal with these regulations, on a quick time frame. And the comments that we have received have been in-depth, detailed, and super helpful. So, I will always say that comments that we receive, we read every single one of them, and we use them to inform our practices. So it's super important, and I know that it takes a lot of time, but it really does help inform the final product. And this is a really good example of that we made significant changes based on public comment. So I just want to thank everybody who has participated in this proceeding and who have worked hard to get us to today. And we're interested to see talk about the final changes and move on to our next steps. So Ms. Evans, do you want to start?
How's that? Thank you. Good morning. My name is Joan Foster Evans, and I am the General Counsel of the Energy Facility Siting Board. And with me today are three of our presiding officers, Donna Sharkey, Daniel Kelleher, and Connor Tarr. And I first would like to say how glad I am to be here presenting this tentative decision and the final regulations for the Siting Board's implementation of the siting and permitting provisions of the 2024 Climate Act. There was no guarantee that the siting and permitting, no guarantee that we would meet the deadlines and be standing before you here today. There were many zigs and zags along the way. And these changes are a long time coming. And we want to thank everyone who made this possible. So I'd like to first give a quick overview. So the new consolidated permit program and the regulations that support the program achieve several important goals. The regs explicitly define roles and responsibilities of various stakeholders in the siting and permitting process. The regulations provide certainty in energy infrastructure siting and permitting by making the processes and procedures exact and time-bound. All stakeholders can understand the process and when to expect various actions and decisions. The new regulations support and promote the participation of stakeholders in local communities, including with a formal role in the process and possible funding, which is through the DPU's Intervenor Support Grant Program. And the regulations expand the board's practice of fact-driven decisions on energy infrastructure, siting, and permitting. So I'm here to present staff's tentative decisions and the final regulations, and I won't go through the list because the chair already went through the list. But I will note two important changes from when we filed the proposed regulations back in September. One, as you noted, the regulations, the final regulations here in the tentative decision do not propose final regulations for constructive approval, 980 CMR 17.00. As a result of comments, we are going back and giving that regulation some more thought and hope to present some thoughts on that regulation at the next board meeting. In addition, as noted in the tentative decision, the EFSB had proposed to repeal 980 CMR 9, which has to do with the Office of Coastal Zone Management. After receiving comments from that office, they asked us not to repeal that regulation. They used that regulation, so that regulation is not in the final repeals list. As you know, Siting Board staff has engaged in a robust public comment process. We started with informal straw proposals and various stakeholder meetings. We initiated a formal rulemaking process in the fall, which included multiple public comment hearings across the state, opportunity for written comments, and of course, a board meeting last month. We want to sincerely thank all the people who gave of their time, resources, and thoughtful comments to improve the regulations. We made many changes in response to those comments and ideas. And during the public comment process, and it was really, truly a collaborative process. I think everybody was really rowing toward an improved process and meeting the goals that hopefully we are meeting today. I also want to thank many state staff who reviewed, edited, and provided many ideas on the regulatory reform through the interagency consultation and other consultations. These regulations have been reviewed at many levels of state and local government, so thank you. So I will note that there is a list of commenters that we will be attaching to the final decision. The list wasn't quite ready for the tentative decision today. We will recognize all those commenters in the attached to our decision. We issued the final decision. So I'm not going to review all of the comments and resulting changes to the regulation. that we presented to the board last month. We went through a rather detailed list of changes to the regulations. However, we've been asked to highlight some of the changes that happened between the board meeting on the 7th, January 7th, and now, and I'd like to do that at this point in time. And it's amazing, it's only 1 month ago, but we have a list of changes in response to edits and comments that we had received. First of all, in our de novo adjudication rules at 980 CMR 14.0, in response to some discussion at the board meeting last month, we refined DOER's role in the adjudication. We recognize a consultative role for DOER during our de novo adjudications. And then we added recognition that the director may consult not only with DOER, but with permitting enforcement agencies and with state and local agencies under our existing authority. So that consultative role is rather broad. We recognized in the final regulations that the substantive law of the permits themselves will still apply in the new permitting regime. We may make some changes based on procedure. We will be following our procedure, but the substantive law that underpins those permits applies going forward. We included a little bit of information in the tentative decision on the question of public health. We've received a number of comments on the role of public health in our review of siting and permitting of energy infrastructure. And when we noted that our new statutory mandate does include explicitly our consideration of public health, that we will have a new board member that's actually the Commissioner of Public Health. We also recognize that at times local boards of health should be involved in the pre-filing stage under the regulations and also can request intervention where appropriate in proceedings. Another issue that we fine-tuned in the final regulations, we had discussion last board meeting on federally delegated permits. Some commenters wanted us to exclude certain named federally delegated permits from the definition of a consolidated permit, while other parties expressed the view that at times federally delegated permits should be included in a consolidated permit. We recognize that some federal programs' timing requirements do not line up with our consolidated permit timing requirements. And so what the regulations do to encompass both points of view is to create a presumption that the federally delegated permits will not be included in a consolidated permit, but allow an applicant to request that one is included, especially where the applicant can demonstrate how the timing of that permit would work with the timing of the consolidated permit and other logistics, so that flexibility is there in the new final regulations. We've had extensive discussions about zoning exemptions. I had to raise it. We added a recognition that zoning can be issued under multiple authorities. And then we tried to streamline the process for requesting a zoning exemption. And we did that in two ways. First of all, by stating that the zoning exemption can be requested as part of the consolidated permit application, and then automatically by regulation consolidating the zoning exemption request with the consolidated permit application, so that step happens automatically. We had a couple of refinements to pre-filing. We added a little refinement that's saying that the Department of Public Participation, DPP, can issue a waiver of zoning of pre-filing requirements or a partial waiver of the pre-filing rules. But we note that in response to a number of comments, the waiver should be granted in limited circumstances. And it's particularly may apply in the first 6 months of the program, where we have various projects in different stages of development. We also made some refinements to the definition of community and of key stakeholders. We did this because these definitions inform certain pre-filing obligations of the applicant. I will note we did receive a recent request from Monday from the utilities to make further changes to the pre-filing regulations. I will note that that we did not make those changes. We did add one small change to state that the pre-filing requirements are as applicable. We can deal with CIA requirements more completely in the CIA regs, but staff felt that this late request without any input from anybody else, it was too much of a substantive request for us to deal with in the past 2 days without any kind of comment or process. Another place that that we spent some time on in the tentative decision are regarding transition issues. And there are a number of transition issues. How do we make this work between March 1st, July 1st, and going forward? So in the tentative decision, staff states that the new regulations apply to projects filed on July 1st, 26 and do not apply to projects that are currently before the board. We state that on March 1st, the new expanded board takes its seats, and the new statutory mandate applies to projects filed March 1st and afterwards. We talked about what type of pre-filing requirements apply during the transition period. We view the pre-filing requirements apply generally to projects, any project filed after July 1, 26. Understanding that there are a number of projects that are currently in development now, we provided a little bit of extra information on the transition. We stated that we expect the applicants to make every effort to comply with pre-filing requirements, but there may be case-by-case situations where possibly partial waivers would be required. We encourage applicants to reach out to DPP to discuss particular projects if they're filing very shortly after the July 1st deadline and to discuss about what kinds of pre-filing requirements would attach. And finally, under transition issues, we received some requests from clean energy developers, particularly battery energy storage system developers, for some additional information on Section 118F of the Act. How is that for very specific? Under that provision, it's a time-bound provision that allows BESS developers, if they request a local permit by March 1st, they do not need to seek EFSB approval. We are suggesting that we read the term requested local permits very broadly. We think that is consistent with the intent of the Act, which is of the goal to streamline permitting and accelerate deployment of clean energy. So what is next? While we're hopefully finishing up this piece of the rulemaking, there are a number of items that need to happen going forward. I will note that should the board approve the package before it, we intend to file it with the Secretary of State's office tomorrow. I'll note that others are also filing tomorrow, different agencies that also have a role in the siting and permitting reform, including the Department of Energy Resources is filing their final regulations tomorrow. The Department of Public Utilities Intervenor Support Grant Program regs are scheduled to file also tomorrow. And I believe that the Department of Public Utilities will be opening a rulemaking on the site EFSB application fees tomorrow. There are also various EEA and Office of Environmental Justice and Equity guidance documents that are out for comment right now. Also, the Department of Energy Resources has guidance documents out for comment right now. So there are a number of pieces of all these rulemakings that are still in play right now. As Secretary said, we have 2 proceedings that are still ongoing. We have a proceeding on cumulative impact analysis. The comments for that are due tomorrow. And we hope to be able to bring those comments to a board meeting later on this month and discuss those comments. We hope also to have some further information on constructive approval at that board meeting later on this month. And we anticipate both rulemakings being completed this spring. We also note that the board will still need to send out a draft of the baseline standards and common conditions out for public comment, and that should be happening shortly. Also upcoming, we're welcoming a new board. We welcome new board members, the Commissioner of the Department of Fish and Game and the Department of Public Health. We're welcoming 3 new public members. The existing labor representative will stay on until the end of the governor's term. And we have 1 board member cycling off, Commissioner Rubin. And we hopefully say more about that at the next board meeting. Thank you. A couple of other things happening going forward is we are looking at our resources. We will say Siting Board is hiring. Wanted to put that out there. Also, we are in the process of developing a new IT system to provide much more flexibility and certainty in filing with the department instead of through the department file portal, a new portal to file consolidated permit documents and requirements. And we'll note that this spring, the Siting Division will be focusing on revising very detailed practices and procedures to implement the regs as completed. Forms and documents, much more plug and play type proceedings in order to meet our statutory deadlines. And that would involve further stakeholder outreach. And then there's an extensive program that EEA is putting together for other community engagement and stakeholder outreach during the spring in order to prepare us for July 1st, 2026. And with that, that is the end of my prepared remarks. I'm very glad to take any questions.
No questions from the board. Okay.
You are done hearing from me.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much.
All right. So should we start with public comments?
Yep.
Okay. So we're now going to listen to comments from the public. We're asking the public to keep your comments to 3 minutes per speaker. We will gently remind you when we're getting close to that 3-minute mark. For those on Zoom, please unmute your microphone, turn on your camera if you like, and state and spell your last name for the stenographer. As I mentioned, we'll begin with public officials. So are there any public officials that would like to provide a comment?
If so, please raise your hand on Zoom or let us know here in the hearing room.
Okay, then we will move on to members of the Commission on Energy, Infrastructure, Siting, and Permitting. any of the members have any comments? Okay, hearing none. Next, we'll move on to the Siting Practitioners Advisory Group. I guess we've worn everybody out. Mr. Rosenzweig, would you like to talk?
Can you hear me? Thank you. Okay. David Rosenzweig. I was a member of the Siting Practitioners Advisory Group during the commission process, and I've been representing New England Power Company, National Grid, and Eversource during the rulemaking process. On behalf of those companies, and I would join them, we do want to echo the comments made by others that this has been a remarkable undertaking and an extraordinary, really, result in rolling in very substantial changes to the statutory structure, the regulatory structure that applies to the Energy Facility Siting Board, and the important role that the Siting Board plays in ensuring a reliable, low-cost, economic, and a community-friendly supply of electricity to customers across the state. And those are very important mandates. We've been an active participant throughout the process and have provided written and oral comments at all stages of the Siting Board's review. I wanted to particularly thank the staff for all of its work throughout the process. It's been very, very substantial, and we recognize that and are most appreciative. With particular issues, we wanted to commend the changes in the regulations over time with issues such as the completeness determination, on the zoning issue, on segmentation, on the treatment of notice and alternatives in this last iteration. We think those are very appropriate changes that will clarify and streamline the permitting process as we go forward. I think there also is a recognition in the tentative decision, and I acknowledge the same belief that as we go through the process, there are likely need to be further revisions to the rules as we learn more about the actual process, how it works, where there are areas of improvement. Last night, as I was reviewing the latest draft of the regulations by candlelight, I noticed under the completeness determination, there's a presumption and a mandate for the presiding officer to make that determination within 30 days of the submission of the application. And that tracks with the statute. What the regulations don't say, however, is what happens if that doesn't occur. As an example. Now, I'm not suggesting any outcome right now, but we all know the unforeseen circumstances are things that tend to come up in proceedings from time to time. So that may be an issue that requires review and more rigor or structure as we go forward. On the issue of federally delegated permits, I noticed a slight shift in some of the language in the regulations in terms of a presumption. There has been a practice at the Siting Board and certificate proceedings to consider those on a case-by-case basis. And the regulations do provide a process for those federally delegated permits that may come up for a particular project to be the subject of a consolidated review if there's a request and there's a justification. And one example might be a 401 water quality certificate from DEP. Those are commonplace permits. Just for example, and they're matters of state law, they're matters where DEP has extraordinarily detailed regulations. There are a lot of prescriptive requirements with regard to stormwater management, dredging and fill that DEP is customarily handled. There's no sort of feedback loop between or open space between what DEP does and what comes under the Clean Water Act at the federal level. So I think that might be one and might come up in Siting Board proceedings where requests are made to consider that, as has been done in certificate proceedings, as an eligible permit. No decision needs to be made here, but I'm just using that as an example. Overall, I do think the result that these regulations produce are a very efficient and effective manner of beginning the process and doing our best to get it rolled out in accordance with the statutory timeframes. And I commend the Siting Board and its staff for following through on all of the items and considering our comments. Some we got adopted, some we didn't, but we understand what the parameters are now, and we're very thankful for that. So with that, I will close and certainly available to respond to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, of course. Just please state your name and.
My name's Deidre Buckley with Eversource. I'm the Director of Siting Transmission at Eversource Energy. First, just want to thank everyone here and joining, by video for all of the work and effort and commitment to this process. I think it's really remarkable that at the beginning of this process, there was so much agreement between the legislature, developers, the state, EFSB, that we needed to change things in order to ensure that we can provide clean energy efficiently and have a reliable grid that can increase capacity. So, it's already been said, everyone's worked so hard, appreciate that, cannot say it enough. I think that we've really ended up with a very clear set of regulations and guidelines. They really balance efficiency, practicality, flexibility, and equity. As David said, not everyone had all of their comments accepted, but very clear that you did read all of these comment letters and you thought about them, consulted with people, and made decisions based on all of that information. And that's been really appreciate how much effort you put into that. And finally, just we're not going to make any specific comments today. David alluded to some of the issues that we flagged before, and just wanted to make sure we're here. This is a huge milestone, and very excited that we got to this point. So thank you.
Deidre Matthews, National Grid. Did not come here this morning with any prepared comments, but we just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to all the staff. Thank you to the board. Thank you for everybody who wrote in and made comments. Thank you for listening. Thank you for putting a great deal of thought into some really complex regulations. Thank you for burning the midnight oil way too often. Maybe not quite thank you for making us burn the midnight oil, but we'll pass on that. We really look forward to this next step of working with you to implement this incredibly complex but incredibly exciting new process. Thank you.
Anyone on the interagency task force that would like to talk? Okay, then we will move on to the public. Anybody from the public that would like to comment? Yeah, if you're on Zoom, if you could just raise your hand, we will recognize you by your hand. All right, seeing none, I am going to again take the benefit of being the chair to say one more thing, which is, whenever you thank people, you inevitably leave people out. But I do want to make a special thank you to my senior team, Mike Judge and Mirabel Power, undersecretaries, who shepherded this in the executive office from the very beginning. Both of them were involved in the original siting commission, are the people who helped do the drafting, who made sure everything went along, who were the liaisons with the governor's office. And so it's really been a big lift for them, but also we are so lucky to have your leadership. And I'm so lucky to have you as colleagues. So thank you all, both of you, for everything you've done. Yes.
This is obviously a Herculean effort to set the table, and a huge amount of work by everybody to get us to where we are. And yet, this is just the beginning. And I think the proof will be in the future. Do good projects get built more quickly with greater community and stakeholder buy-in? And so I'm excited to see what's next, but we can't lose sight of, the end goal of sort of building infrastructure in a more efficient, community-friendly way. And we set the table, and now we got to see whether or not the meal is happens in the way we think it's going to happen. So, thank you, and looking forward to what's next.
Just to continue the thanks, I just want to say I'm personally committed to stakeholder engagement, and I think this was an excellent example of providing many opportunities. I know not everybody was completely on board with how much stakeholder engagement we were inviting, but just appreciate people on staff making it happen, the interagency work that made it happen. And thanks to people for showing up time and time again. I know not everybody, well, some people attended every single one, but some people made it when they were able to do so. So just wanting to appreciate everybody putting in the effort to result in a really great product. I think it's a great moment and an exciting day.
We've got the time, so I'll talk. At length. No, maybe to build on that, what my two colleagues from the DPU just shared, and to add to the many thanks that are being offered today. I do want to talk. I wanted to offer that the stakeholdering that we've done, as Commissioner Rubin just said, has been extensive. It's been a new pathway, I think, for developing regulations, but also setting the stage, maybe setting the table for how the process will go moving forward. And as has been noted here today, we've done this very quickly, and it's very difficult. And I think that's what we are going to see in the future. It's still going to be difficult, and we're still going to have to move quickly. But I think by going through this process, we've demonstrated, some might say we've led by example, on how, that's a division at DOER if you didn't know, on how to do this. And I think that's what's so impressive, is that a year ago, we thought, can we do this? How do we do this? And here we're here on February 12th, and I was just going to swear, we've done it. And so I'll add to the heaps of thanks to the staff at the EFSB, to certainly Ms. Evans and Mr. Green for leading the way, and my colleagues at EEA, and then of course my great team at DOER that did not exist 1 year ago today, and that will be passing the torch, the baton. It's Olympic season, so take your preference there, but they will be filing regulations. We might actually do it today. Again, staff that were not state employees a year ago, and that have led with trust and with dignity, and have really been great on this issue. And I will note, I feel like we have a bond and a friendship with EFSB staff like we've never had. And that's what's going to make this all work, that as we try and help municipalities on this issue, we are going to be able to, we have these relationships to make the process really work and the regulations work. And that didn't exist a year ago either. So state workers, get it done. So thank you all.
Well, if you don't want to say thank you to your team, that's okay. We can move on. There's
some prepared remarks. I'm just kidding. Everyone has been, I mean, I don't need to repeat what's already been said. All of it's true. All of it resonates. Thank you all so much. I think, we at DEP, as many of you appreciate and navigate all the time, have many permitting processes, some of which are run at the local level already. So some of our issues were particularly complex, and many hours of conversations with Joan and Andy and really many of the FSB and DPU team to just try to make all of those things fit together and actually create a process that is streamlined at the end of the day. So upholding these really important protections that make sure that the projects that you propose get built and aren't immediately disasters for you or for the communities, right? We need to have these important protections, but we need to do so. We recognize this stuff needs to get built. We desperately need it for any number of reasons, but including to meet our really ambitious climate goals and climate mandates here. So making all of these things work together has really required a lot of creativity and a lot of extra effort by folks who, coming from the private sector, these people don't get a bonus. They don't get a raise. They don't get, there's nothing motivating them externally other than really believing that how important this is and really wanting to make it happen. So thank you all and apologies to all of your families, friends, colleagues who have had to endure this alongside you, because it has been just a tremendous amount of work. So I think Chair McDermott's right? This is the start, not the end, but we really have to celebrate this moment because it's really monumental. So thank you all.
The last thing that I'll say is, I think that this legislation is the most comprehensive, most creative siting legislation in the country. So we do have to thank the legislature as well for the work that they did on this legislation. It wasn't an easy thing to understand and to figure it all out in legislation. And, they stepped up, did something bold. We're going to now make it work as Chair McDermott said, and as Mr. Rosenzweig said, that we have no doubt that there will be things that we have to figure out as we go along. This is a complicated process and it's brand new. Nobody has done it before. So we've got to, we're going to have to figure it out as we go along. And I hope that people will continue to be open to discussing changes and things that aren't going right, things that are going well, so that we can all together make sure that we get to the goal of having good projects, as the chair said, and making sure that the communities are on board and have a chance to talk about the projects. So thank you all. Let's move on to a motion. So to begin deliberations, I need to have motion.
Motion to adopt the tentative decision and final regulation package.
Second.
Great. Do we have any further discussion about the regulations? We have done a lot of deliberation. Well, actually, we've done no deliberation, but all of us have looked at the regs and we have looked at them closely many times. And the EFSB has answered many of our questions as we have gone along. So appreciate that. So no amendments to the motion? All right, then I think we should have a vote.
Chair McDermott,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubin,
Enthusiastic, yes.
we'll take it. Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Heipel,
Aye.
Mr. Gutro,
Yes.
and Chair Tepper.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
congratulations, everyone. It's really great. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Well, I'll say aye to adjournment.
Aye.
I think that works.
Aye.
Aye to
Aye.
adjournment. All right, thank you. All right, Andy.
Thank you. Interpreters, we are done for the day.
I would like to know that everybody We're now off the record.